Welcome to the ANEW Body Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogram Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. And Chantal Donnelly, physical therapist and author of Settled, How to Find Calm in a Stress-Inducing World. We follow our guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us.
Welcome back to the ANEW Body Insight Podcast. We are back for the second half of our interview with Jillian Beck-Rogers. Jillian gave us some illuminating information about her transition from the fashion industry to helping those struggling with comfort eating. We are eager to learn a whole lot more, Jillian. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. You, I have heard, are an avid rock climber. How has this sport enhanced your life? What do you learn from it?
Yeah, so it's funny because when I was younger, I was not considered athletic. I mean, I did do dance in grade school growing up. So that was kind of my athleticism, if we'll even call it that. I was not into team sports, though. That was not my thing. There was one summer where a friend of mine was really into cross country and she kind of sold me on it. I was like, I'm going to join cross country. And I lasted about, one practice session, which was supposedly an easy session during the summer. And it was so hot and humid because I grew up in Kansas City area, very hot and humid. I just about died. And I was like, I am not joining cross country. This is not happening. So I was just never that person who was very athletic. Going to the gym was just not something that was really on my mind. But many years ago, I got into rock climbing because one of my husband's coworkers invited a group of us to go. And I think my husband was shocked that I agreed to it because he was he even knew that I was just not that person. But I was scared of heights, but I was intrigued. It did seem fun. And I was like, let's try this. Why not? Thinking I would probably never try it again. But I ended up kind of loving it. And I also just loved the feeling of, going past what I thought was possible for myself and feeling stronger and more capable. I'm not going to lie. It feels very empowering when you're in a gym that's predominantly men. There's definitely women there, but when the men are impressed at how strong the women are, I'm like, this is something I can be a part of. I like this. So I got really into it. Me and my husband started going 3 times a week. And when we lived in New York City back then, and now we live in LA, 8 years later, we're still going 3 times a week together. So he's my accountability buddy. We push each other. But it's really just changed my perspective. Like I said, the exercise doesn't have to be this thing that we check off of our list that we're just I have to do this. It can be something, maybe not all of the time, but it can be something that's fun, that you enjoy, that makes you feel empowered. It makes, for me, climbing makes me feel strong and more capable in ways that I didn't know that I could be. And I was, I surprised myself with my physical strength and all of those things. So it just felt very empowering. And it's a really good stress relief. I like to say it's a good exercise to do for yourself physically, but also mentally, because you're doing this puzzle with your brain and your body at the same time. So you can't really be stressing about whatever it was that was stressing you out earlier that day while you're on the wall, or else you might hurt yourself. So it's a good way to kind of just unwind and have that healthy practice to, zoom out from the day, refocus, and reset. So that's a big thing for me.
It certainly is a mindful activity. And I think most sports do that. They get you out of your head. They get you out of thinking about what just happened or what's about to happen, because you really have to concentrate when you're rock climbing. Otherwise, you're going to fall. So
exactly.
Do you go outside as well, or do you just do the gym? Are you going down to J Tree and
I have done outdoor climbing a few times, some in Chile even, or Vermont, and some in Joshua Tree. But to be honest, I all my skills are just terrible when I go outside. So I'm a much better indoor rock climber than I am outdoors. It is that extra layer of a little bit more danger when you're outside, or just a different way of being present and like feeling the rock and stuff like that. So I do a little bit of both, but mostly the indoor climbing.
I have never wanted to do any indoor climbing, but I think you sold me. I love this
It's
mindful
so
piece.
fun.
It sounds fun. I mean, the mindful piece with the challenge and the playful and the physical, all that combined. I don't know. You sold me on it. I'm going to go try it.
Come join. I get free passes every month. You're welcome to come.
Well, we're all in the same city, so we should.
Yeah. Meet up.
I am somebody who just went through menopause. And during perimenopause, I gained 20 pounds that I had a really, really difficult time losing. Do you have, because you work with people with comfort eating and also weight gain, do you have any specific advice for women who are going through midlife, through perimenopause, menopause?
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like my advice would be to just instead of looking at just what you're eating, right? Which is, I think it's definitely what diet culture preaches, is what you're eating is like all the craze, or what not to eat, really. But instead also look at how you're eating and who you're being when you eat. So that piece of really slowing down, which I think most of us maybe have heard or we're somewhat aware, but we don't do as well as maybe we should have. I mean, maybe I'm speaking for myself. I am a recovering fast eater. But slowing down in order to savor your food more, allow your system to digest properly. When we eat fast, we eat in a stress state, which we were talking about before. You know, when we eat really fast, we're kicking on our sympathetic nervous system, which really impairs our digestion, which isn't clearly not going to help you when you're trying to lose weight, right? And when we slow down, we're also able to notice those hunger and fullness cues a lot better. We're able to let our saliva help break down our food and make that a little bit easier on our system and all those kinds of things. And I would say like a good goal is to just aim for like 20-minute meals, which is probably something that a lot of people maybe aren't doing. I know before I was learning about that, I certainly wasn't spending 20 minutes on my meals. I was raised in a house where we would eat very, very fast. So that was something that I've had to be very mindful of and try to slow down in order to help with my digestion and things like that. But slowing down, taking, breaks in between your bites, chewing your food more, taking some breaths, and just being present and engaged, which I know is something you guys do a lot while we eat, because sometimes we do shovel that bag of chips down our mouths when we're sitting and watching TV. And like, I sit and eat and watch TV too sometimes. Like, I'm guilty of that. And if I don't sit down and like engage with all of my senses, notice my food, take a few minutes in between eating to really pay attention to what I'm doing, that really helps me to slow down and know that I'm eating my meal and feeling more satisfied with the food that I'm having, rather than going back for seconds and thirds and stuff because my brain wasn't really engaged and I just ate it so fast. So just that big piece of like slowing down, I think, is the advice that I would give.
I love that.
Yeah.
I call it settle, then savor,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like settle your nervous system and then do the mindful savoring, that intuitive eating type thing. And I'm like you, I'm guilty of not always doing that, but it is something that since I gained that extra 20 pounds, I've had to really change. And I loved how you said, like, who are you while you're eating? I love that. That's like,
are you a stressed out person or are you a calm person?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love how you mentioned diet culture, because I think a lot of women, when they hit midlife, they go straight to diet culture and they are just desperate to find whatever food they need to knock off their list to lose weight the fastest. Mm-hmm. Tell me your take, because I'm very much anti-diet culture and very much about learning, having people learn how to tune into themselves. How do you handle that when a client comes in and says, I just need to cut all carbs? Help me figure that out.
Oh, I struggle because I'm just like, no.
Yes, same.
It's that struggle of like not wanting to just tell people like what to do, because nobody wants to just be told like, you have to do this or don't do that or whatever, because I don't think we respond well to that. And also it's that piece of, your body best, but I'm trying to help you tune into it a little bit better and make better and more informed choices. So I would say my first instinct is to not want to, tell them no. But I think just slowing down with that and saying, what if we try it this way instead? And like carbs are our friends, it's just looking at what kinds of carbs, really helping them upgrade their food rather than looking at what are we all cutting out? Like, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that. That's just really that whole, like you said, the diet mentality of deprivation, which is so depressing. And ultimately, we don't want to be following that. So how can we take what we enjoy or what we're missing and just upgrade it a little bit? Can we make a better choice? So maybe not cutting out all carbs, cut out maybe the cheap pizza and go for, the better option. Maybe try the cauliflower crust, maybe try a whole wheat crust, maybe do it less often. Maybe look for more quinoa and, sweet potatoes or like better carb options, but just not trying to do this like all or nothing kind of a thing, but just upgrading them. I don't know. That's the best way I can think of describing it.
I love it. And I love you had me at carbs are your friend. I think a lot of people, me too, and everyone does. And I think it's really depressing for a lot of people to think that they have to just cut them all out and they can never have them again. And actually that works completely against your body. Your body runs primarily on carbs. Your brain loves glucose. It doesn't love ketones. It does not love that. Your body does not like to be in ketosis. It's actually very metabolically acidic for you. And so I like to help people, reprogram their thoughts around, what's been told is taboo. Do you have kind of an all foods fit mentality? It sounds like you do.
Yeah. I mean, a way that I was taught that I also kind of like preach, in quotes, to my clients is thinking of foods as like on a scale, right? They're not evil. And I even have to remind this of myself sometimes because, I think people think like health coaches, they're like, because I was just at a bridal shower this weekend, they're like, oh, you're a health coach. Oh, so are you eating the dessert? I was like, yes, I ate the carrot cake. I loved it. I was like, it's all about balance, right? And that's like with foods, it's like, there's no evil foods. You don't need to feel guilty that you're having it, but just think of it as like the scale of the Twinkie, right? To like the homegrown farm to table, like what is going to make you feel the most energized and the best? What is maybe going to feel good in the moment, but not so hot later? And like, let's just try and like move the scale up this way without labeling it as like an absolute no or an absolute yes.
Yeah, that's my philosophy. I always say that there are no bad foods, even though we know that there are more healthy and less healthy foods. When we say something good or bad, we vilify these foods, and that actually increases cravings and, makes you
we want what we can't have.
Exactly. So if we say it's on the table and you can have it, just tune into your body and listen to your body, then you have the freedom to be able to savor it. I think when people have their taboo foods, they want to eat it as fast as possible because they feel ashamed. And so they can actually take time with it. It doesn't have to be something evil and off limits. And then they listen because you might not eat the entire carrot cake. If you're really listening to your body, you might be like, oh, I think I only wanted a couple bites and I can put that down. And if I want more, there's more carrot cake to have later. So that's a very good philosophy.
Yeah. And that reminds me of like a client who she would, eat the chocolate bars and all this other stuff as quickly as possible and like hide it in her car because, she was like ashamed. So instead, when she realized that kind of behavior, like you said, it's like we want to do the thing that we're not supposed to do. So sometimes we just do it out of, rebelliousness, right? And when we can acknowledge it more, we take the shame away and then we can just like enjoy the nice piece of chocolate, but have less of it maybe.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let me ask you, if someone wanted to work with you but couldn't afford to work with you, what advice would you give them? Would you have them read a book? Would you, send them to a podcast? Or what would you say to the person who can't be with you?
Yeah, I mean, I have some advice that I would give to just kind of help with comfort eating. First, though, since you did mention a book, Atomic Habits, you were talking about tiny habits earlier, so that maybe this is similar and has probably a lot of parallels. But Atomic Habits is good if you are having trouble like getting habits to stick. It's a really good way to break down how to make a habit stick for good. So that's something I would suggest reading. But advice that I would give if someone, couldn't afford to work with me is, first of all, like we've talked about, enjoying food for a little comfort is like not a bad thing. Food is not evil. Like I have done it before and still do sometimes and catch myself, eating chocolate mindlessly and thinking like, why did I even eat that? I wasn't actually hungry. So it's not necessarily this bad, evil, shameful thing. But it can become a problem, if we're having unwanted weight gain or other health issues, if we just feel at the mercy of our cravings and don't have autonomy over our body, or it just feels like, there's this emotional need that isn't really quite being addressed. And that's kind of like me and my story at the beginning that I shared. And so the first thing I would say is to start with awareness. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. So being aware of what your habits are, what are your patterns? You can't change anything until we're aware. So getting curious about what triggers you to reach for certain things at certain times of day. Are you stressed about something? Is someone stressing you out? Where are you? What are you doing? What are you actually desiring in this moment? Just asking yourself these questions with no judgment and just noticing. Mm-hmm. And then I would say tuning into those physical hunger cues to see, is this physical hunger or is this emotional hunger? And if you are not feeling quite satisfied after eating all of the time and like the chocolate and potato chips and the glass of wine just aren't really doing it for you, then I would say maybe it is more of like this emotional hunger that we're missing. And then from there, kind of looking at what is the emotion you're actually desiring in this moment? Mm-hmm. Are you desiring when you're eating these potato chips, are you actually desiring peace and quiet right now? Are you actually desiring a break from your responsibilities during the workday? Are you desiring a moment of joy and pleasure? And the other option that we just said is, or is it just like this need for rebellion? Do we just want to do the thing we've always been told we're not supposed to do? Mm-hmm. So just understanding what it is you actually want out of this. And then thinking about what's another activity or ritual that maybe I could try instead. So if I'm eating the glass of wine in order to relax every single night, because the day's just been hectic, my kids are tugging at me all of the time, this is my one moment to myself, maybe try, having a bubble bath and like locking the door. Maybe have a few minutes to like read in a fluffy robe or do a hot shower with a facial, like something else that you can try to nourish yourself in a way that, may or may not replace the food, but is going to satisfy that need that you have a little bit better.
I like that you bring in emotional hunger and physical hunger. I had somebody just recently, a client, tell me the difference for her between mm-hmm. the physical hunger and the emotional hunger. Physical, you can feel in your belly, and emotional hunger is a void in your heart.
And I thought that was... I mean, I don't like that, but I like that description.
Right?
And I don't like that for her.
No, exactly. So I think that's very important, learning to discern between the two.
And that's amazing, though, that she can know that about herself mm-hmm. and sees that difference.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And not everybody's quite that embodied, but it is a beautiful thing to be able to distinguish those two things. Mm-hmm. I did notice that you have some freebies on your website. Maybe that will help people who want to work with you, or maybe if they can't afford to work with you. I don't know. Either way, those freebies are we like freebies here.
We love freebies. Yes.
I love freebies. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have 9 healthy snack and breakfast ideas. I did breakfast and snacks in particular because, having a good breakfast, I am a believer in breakfast, and it helps boost your metabolism, get you started for the day, gives you more energy. And I think snacks are not bad. Snacks help, curb your blood sugar and your cravings. It's just about that upgrade thing again. Like, how can we still have these things, but just upgrade what we're having? So you can have, 9 of my favorite recipes on this free guide and discover kind of how to satisfy your comfort food cravings without the guilt, shame, or depriving yourself, because we don't like depriving. We like food around here. And there's some make ahead meal prep tips in there so that you can make it easy for yourself and on the go, because I know people are really, really busy. So you can get that at jillianhealthandwellness.com/ideas-p.
Well, I need that. I need to be better at food prep. That's one of my problems.
Don't we all? It's an ongoing thing.
And do you have some rotating, workshops or anything like that? Is there anything coming up that's similar to that?
Yeah, I'm actually hosting next week, which is in May, but I'm hosting a Conquer Your Cravings 3-day kickstart. So it's going to be similar to like some of the stuff we've talked about today, but just really helping people identify, what they're actually craving, some healthier ways to satisfy those cravings that, don't have any guilt or shame attached to them. Some physical, but actually going a lot beyond just the eat this, eat that. Mm-hmm. So I do, I'm hoping to run it again, but I do different workshops and things, different challenges. I've done a mocktail class in the past, which was really, really fun.
Oh, that's fun.
So yeah, lots of different things.
Wonderful. Well, besides your website, are you on social media? Can people connect with you there?
Yeah, I am primarily on Instagram because it is the most fun, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I'm at Jillian Beck-Rogers. So just come say hi and DM me that you listen to the podcast, and I would love to connect. I'm also on LinkedIn, but I'm not quite as active on there. So
wonderful. What kind of content do you post?
I post all sorts of different things. I mean, it's a good way to know if like one of these free events or things are coming up as well. But I post, a lot of stuff around like what we're talking about here. It's not just like how to or like eat this, eat that, but a lot more like kind of transformational things or tips and things to help you become more aware of what your habits are, what you can try instead. Some fun stuff on there.
I'm going to follow you on Instagram.
Me too.
Come say hi.
Yay. We're all going to connect. Well, we're just about out of time, but we really want to thank you, Jillian. We need more people like you out there, people who are not just, militant diet culture people who are really teaching how to tune into yourself, about self-awareness, about mindfulness. If they can do that and become their own best expert, they don't need somebody yelling at them to stop eating carbs or, you have to intermittent fast or time restricted eating. Those. No, I think it's just it's not fun. And it sounds to me like you're bringing the joy back into eating. That's what I'm all about, because we're designed to eat. We need to eat, and it should be a pleasurable and enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. It's like, it is a joy to eat. And I think that's maybe something that people aren't sure about when they're hearing like, ooh, like overcoming comfort eating. That means you're going to take everything good away. And it's like, no, it's really just about finding that better balance and being more intentional with things. So I love the way that you put that.
Mm-hmm. You can steal it. I put the fun back into eating. It's your tagline.
I will have to take that.
Thank you so much, Jillian. And thank you everyone for tuning into the ANEW Body Insight Podcast. We look forward to our next exciting interview, and we hope you join us to tune in and evolve with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the ANEW Body Insight Podcast. Please remember, the content shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streaming, on YouTube at my.anew.insight and at anew-insight.com under the ANEW Body Insight Podcast tab. Follow us on our socials at my.anew.insight on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more updates. Tune in next time and evolve with us.